What is a real-life cheat code you use? Story 1. Keeping list of things people love or want. Comes in super handy during birthdays and Christmas. I always get complimented on how thoughtful my gifts are. A little planning goes a long way. Story 2. Whenever I have to have a bellyache, I lay on my left side. I did this long before actually looking up the science, but apparently your GI tract is situated in such a way that laying on your left side helps move things along. Story 3. Neil Gaiman's trio. Submit quality work. Submit work punctually. Be pleasant to communicate with. You only need 2 out of 3. Over my academic career, I've submitted absolute dog shit, but it was on time and I was polite about it. I've submitted requirements really late, but it was good work and I was apologetic about it. I can sort of ignore messages and be blunt in communication as long as I submit good work on time. Answer. Pretty much every professor has allowed me to submit at least one late assignment because I'm polite. In participate class, I had one professor for 4 semesters and got A's in all his classes. I had him for one more class a year later and was like, hey, I know this assignment is 3 weeks late, but I'm going to go ahead and submit it now. And he was just like, yeah, that's cool, and gave me full credit. Story 4. When I hear a word I cannot define, I stop whatever I'm doing and look it up. You would be amazed how that helps you understand the world around you and all aspects of it, especially finances. Story 5. Makes my anti-anxiety meds, my sister's anti-seizure meds, and my father's blood pressure meds so much more affordable. Story 6. Let people talk and sound friendly. They will always let out more than they are willing. Also, always start a negotiation with a positive with the other party. Then you start working your way through more sensitive terms of your soon-to-be agreement. Story 7. When you decide to use a teaspoon instead of a tablespoon for ice cream or yogurt or pretty much anything, it gives you more bites, forces you to take more time to enjoy something, really savor it. And I think that's pretty special. Story 8. When I'm cooking, I'll boil the water in the electric kettle and then add it to the pot so I don't have to wait as long. Story 9. Wash your bowls, spatulas, and so on while you are cooking, and after supper, you will have hardly any dishes to do. Story 10. I had a pair of jeans where the zipper wouldn't stay up. Put a key ring through the little hole in the zipper and hooked it around the button. Zipper stays up and the key ring is hidden behind the fabric that fastens over the button. Saved me buying a new pair of jeans for a while. I dislike buying jeans. They're the worst clothing to go shopping for. Story 11. If you go into another room and forget what you came for next time, start counting in your head as you are getting up to go to the other room. You can think about other things, but for some reason, the counting keeps the original thought tied to it. This even works if you smoke a lot of plant substance. Story 12. You can purchase Kindle books on Amazon for many college textbooks. You can return a Kindle purchase within 7 days for a full refund. You can download a free trial of a program that will convert the Kindle file into a PDF. You can pirate that program. Story 13. You're only shady if you try to hide it. People are more accepting of questionable behavior if you're upfront about it. Story 14. If you need a club card code for the grocery store or pharmacy and don't have one, just enter the local area code N8675309. I guarantee someone has registered that number and you won't have to sign up your own cell number. Story 15. Not eating before drinking adult beverage gets you buzzed faster and cheaper. Conversely, eating something high in fat just after taking an edible will make you feel better, faster, and longer. Story 16. My friend used to work at McDonald's and employees get a 50 discount, which is a picture they show sent via email. My friend sent me a screenshot of the coupon, and now I can use it whenever I get good old McD's. They never ask or check if you really do work at a location, and I've saved at least 100 so far. Story 17. Being a fast, effective, physically disabled cashier essentially means I get no nasty customers at my register. Everyone sees I am working hard, and in the event I flub on something, no one wants to be the guy who yells at the disabled worker. Story 18. I take melatonin at the exact same time every night, and now my brain is absolutely fixed on falling asleep at the right time. Story 19. Exercise and eat well. An hour a day makes the other 23 so much insanely better. Well, I've been in amazing shape. Then I had some medical stuff knock me down into depression, drinking DoorDash every day, and got fat as hell. Everything hurt. I slept like shoot. People, men and women, young and old, treat you so much worse when you're unattractive. It's ridiculous. Snapped out of it. Got back in shape. Felt like myself again. Body feels amazing. Strangers are nice again. I've been the same person in both physical states. There is absolutely no comparison whatsoever. Life is much, much, much better as even a moderately fit person. It's bizarre how much it affects your day-to-day social interactions with strangers. Answer: this was my cheat code when in therapy for depression and a restrictive eating disorder. I realized that even a short walk around my building complex boosted my mood a little, and that little could be enough to actually brush my hair or eat something decent. Some days were truly so awful that I couldn't bring myself to do even that, and I reached out to friends or neighbors who were kind enough to knock on my door and get me on a walk. For a while, cardio was one of the biggest weapons I could use against my condition, and afterwards I thought of it as just something I do a few times a week as preventative treatment. Story 20. Once had a coupon for $100 from a clothing company, but you had to spend at least $100 to use it. Most items cost close to that, so you'd have to get 2 items anyway. Well, I found a shirt for $95 and added gift wrapping for $5. The coupon worked. All I had to pay was shipping. Story 21. This is a 2-for-1 hack. You drink your coffee or tea with milk, but sometimes forget to buy fresh milk. Then simply fill a bunch of ice cube trays with milk, freeze them, and then put them in a Tupperware in your freezer. This way they don't expire. Also, when you pop one in your freshly made beverage, it cools it to drinking temperature straight away. Boom. Story 22. Sobriety. It's weird how substances and adult beverage started as this thing I used to do to have fun and overtime just because another job. Story 23. Drinking water before you go to bed on a night out is the only way to prevent or diminish an inevitable morning hangover, especially useful if you work early. Your hangover is the result of you being dehydrated. You don't need to drink a gallon. Even just a pint will save you from a day of headache hell. Story 24. Okay, so have you ever had that sudden, inexplicable pain in your chest and every breath seems like torture? So if you ever have that, hard as it may be, just cough lightly. Fake cough if you have to. You'll be surprised that it'll be like there was no pain in the first place. Story 25. When I have to make a call for work, I leave their contact list page open on my computer while we talk. If they mention anything personal, upcoming vacation, kid trying to choose a college, etc., I add it to the notes section of their entry. People get super impressed when you call back a month later to go review their next order and casually ask if Jimmy's decided between Penn State or the University of Maryland yet, or make a note of their birthday and shoot them a quick email on the day. They feel seen, heard, and my client retention rate is fantastic. Story 26. Estimate effort 3 times as high as it should. Take twice the time it should take, and people praise you for finishing early. Story 27. I put in my AirPods without turning anything on and just walk around in silence. Not all the time. I listen to music and podcasts, but sometimes I just need silence. No background city noises, just quiet. Story 28. Saying it's my birthday to get free complimentary desserts at hotel restaurants. Most of the time, the complimentary dessert tastes way better than the ones on the menu. Edit 1. Thank you for the award. This is unexpected. Edit 2. Y'all are making me feeling so blessed and loved. Thanks all. Story 29. Monthly bus passes in the city where I grew up cost $85 for adults, 18, and $45 for anyone 17 and under. Until my mid-20s, when I moved, I would pretend to be 16 and buy the underage ones, because bus drivers never gave enough of a fudge to actually check what pass you were using, unless it was so obvious you were fudge with them. I got lucky that I have a baby face, so all I had to do was wear clothes that covered my tattoos and act super shy. Story 30. You can present almost anything, and if you do it with confidence, people will take your word for it or believe you. Also, nodding when asking questions makes people more likely to say yes. Story 31. Gas pumps. If a gas pump has a rewards program and it does not require you to scan in a card or verify by text, then you can enter a phone number. Enter your area code, 867-5309. That's from the song 867-5309 Jenny, performed by Tommy Tutone. A lot of people use that number on rewards programs. 80 of the time, the number works on gas pump rewards programs that I've used. Story 32. My degenerate gambler friend doesn't want to use players' cards because he doesn't want to be tracked. So he uses my players' cards everywhere he goes. I get all the free hotel rooms and other perks. Story 33. No thoughts, just vibes. Basically be spontaneous and do whatever the fudge you feel like doing in the moment. Makes me a lot happier. Story 34. On 3-lane highways that are not busy, I drive fairly fast and efficiently in the slow lane. Keeps me from getting speeding ticket, and I only need to pass once in a while at on-off ramps. Drivers seem conditioned to drive in the middle lane if they are slow, and often camp out in the fast lane. People tend not to drive in the right lane, even though they should be. This used to annoy me until I realized I could just drive fast in this mostly open lane, where there's a breakdown lane to my right, that I don't have to worry about other vehicles. Yeah, technically it's illegal in some U.S. states to pass on the right, but it's not enforced, and I don't cut people off either. However, it does take an eye for timing. Edit. Added benefit to center lane slowpokes who notice they are getting passed on the right tend to speed up. I imagine from a subconscious superiority need that had them in the center lane to begin with, which makes overall traffic flow quicker. So basically, you've unlocked the stealth lane in the highway game. Just remember, if everyone starts doing this, the right lane becomes the new fast lane. Then what? Story 35. I used to be really bad at small talk, and nobody really liked me because I would skip all the pleasantries. I've got brain damage, so these things don't come naturally to me. I had to really think about how to fix that aspect of myself. I figured I'd just start asking people how their day was. When I started, it was the first thing I asked, and I always got the response, "Good, and you?" which was frustrating because it had no effect. I figured out that if you asked, "How's your day?" as the third or fourth sentence of your conversation along with a smile, they'll give you an honest answer. At first, I never cared about what they'd say, but slowly I became invested. I started learning new things. People were nicer to me, and they actually listened to what I had to say. The relationship I had with my father grew from a bitter, verbally harmful behavior one-to-one where we worked together. He eventually got in on it too and started becoming invested in how I was doing as well. It's so simple, but so effective. For all my fellow socially awkward peers, you gotta try this. A beautiful reminder that social skills aren't always innate. Sometimes they're just a well-timed, "How's your day?" away. Story 36. Does Adderall count? LOL. I drink my morning coffee in the shower when I get ready for the day to save time. LOL. When you buy packs of meat, separate them into meal portions before you freeze it so you're not defrosting like 12 chicken breasts and refreezing 10 when you only need 2. Pack your lunch or always have snacks in your bag so you don't have to do it in the morning. Also, set out your clothing for the next day before you go to bed. Stretching before bed and after you wake up. If you're in a pinch and your pants keep falling down, zip tie the side belt loops. Also, safety pin or paper clip to make your bra racer back. Having an Apple Watch and an Alexa TBH. Story 37. Video of a box fan on YouTube with my AirPods in to drown out all the noise and sleep at random times. Story 38. Not drinking or doing other substances. I used to, and now that I decided to stop, it's like a jet that's been running on regular gasoline and finally found jet fuel. It is amazing what just quitting the occasional night out drinking has done for my life. Story 39. When you are desperate to fart, and in a crowd of people, make sure you let it out slowly as you randomly walk through them. Then at some point, make a grimace, indicating that someone else has farted. Hopefully someone else sees this and also grimaces in response so as to reinforce your deception. Story 40. I saw a janitor at my work press the elevator buttons in a specific pattern, and it made every single one of the 6 elevator doors open at once. Story 41. If you're ever sick at a place that serves adult beverage, whether it's diarrhea or nausea, ask for 7-Up, Sprite, or Sierra Mist mixed with bitters. When you get it, chug it. Don't sip or drink sparingly. Drink it all in one go. Your stomach will feel better immediately. I was close to leaving work early once, and now whenever my stomach acts up, I ask for it. It tastes terrible, but you're drinking it to feel better. It's natural too, so anybody uncomfortable with taking substances or medicine should consider it. Edited. Tummy troubles only. Please see a medical professional if it's something worse. Story 42. If you whisper up, up, down, down, left, right, B, A, start in a girl's ear, she has to give you her phone number. It's the code. Story 43. Sand in the eye if you're ever losing a fight. Don't take advantage after that, though. Don't be that guy. Just get out of there. Story 44. Actually understanding how to use Google search engine. First tip. If you're looking for a specific quote, keyword, or company and want to find only the Reddit results, type in first, site, reddit.com. Then you add in your actual query. It would look like this, site, reddit.com. What is a real-life cheat code you use? And you will be able to find this answer more easily. Google has a large variety of filtering tools to allow you search more effectively. Story 45. Extra time in the morning. Earlier rise means relaxed shower, quiet and calm, easy commute, breath work before clocking in, calm mindset to start my day. Highly recommended. Story 46. When I am at a stoplight and I have a Dairy Queen Blizzard, I pick it up to get a spoonful of ice cream. Within seconds of picking the cup up, the light turns green every time. Story 47. If I bend my DCK very slightly the right way, it'll trigger a feeling better than any climax I've ever had. It's mostly centered at the base and my upper left leg, weirdly enough. Stops feeling good after the second time for a few hours. Answer: not exactly the same thing, but along the same line that it's not a typical way of getting one. If I get really high on plant substance and lay still in bed, I start to get what's kind of like the spins, but it'll build up until it just releases and every nerve feels like it's firing off and my body feels like it's twitching. But after that, I'm not as high like with real orgasms. I've let it happen while next to other people and they just think I'm falling asleep, so I don't think I'm actually convulsing the way it feels like I am. No clue what it is, El Mayo. Story 48. Pooping in the shower followed by a waffle stomp. Saves a trip to the toilet and you save money on toilet paper. Also, just kidding. Story 49. Cheat codes in life are too expensive. The only free ones I know are pretending to not know the difference between flat leaf curly parsley at self-checkout to save 20 cents, being white to avoid mod harassment, and Googling adult content but free, like you don't have to pay for it or anything. Story 50. If you can, go run your errands at night. All the stores you have to go to, do it at night. No people, no road anxiety, just you getting shoot done in, mostly quiet. The only things I go out in the daytime for are doctors and dentist appointments. Story 51. I have started to make an effort to do things for people just to do it for them, and I think it makes life a lot easier. Story 52. When a sheet pan has baked on food that's difficult to remove, fill it with water and place a dryer sheet in it overnight. Remove the sheet the next day, then rinse and use a sponge to sweep the food into the garbage disposal. Story 53. A good overall stretch combo for any exercise, ESP running, is a runner's lunge twist that goes into a hip flexor stretch and ends with transitioning into a hamstring stretch. The front leg of the lunge should be the same front leg for the hammy stretch. Repeat as many times as you can until you feel limber and your heart rate is a bit elevated. This is just a general stretch. If you're going to do serious exercise, you should do more targeted stretches and warm-ups. Story 54. My grandpa told me if I sleep on my left side, I won't have as much reflux as I do if I sleep on my right side. He told me this when I first got diagnosed with GERD. He also had GERD. Yay, genetics. At first, I thought it was some wives' tale, but I did what he suggested, and I did see a little improvement, but my symptoms were just horrible and needed to be managed. My doctor then told me to sleep elevated and on my left side to reduce reflux. It turns out my grandpa was right all along. The way your stomach is positioned, acid had a harder time coming up if you lay on your left side. Now, this won't completely cure reflux, obviously, but it does help. Now that my symptoms are managed, I do feel a huge difference, and I make it a point to sleep on my left side. Story 55. I ride an e-bike to work. I save money. I'm in better shape. And because I don't have to go to the gym to get cardio, I save time too. My commute is kind of far at 8 miles one way, so the adult helps with the time and sweatiness. Story 56. We had to read The Wizard of Oz in American history class. Assignment was a character sketch of a character, so I drew a pic of the scarecrow. Class thought I was an idiot. I got a B. Story 57. It was only once. I'm afraid to try it again, but here was mine. Just got my first car. Trying to find insurance that's not insanely expensive, I end up settling with the company my parents are with for $500-ish a month. I pay for a few months, but decide it's too expensive, so I call and cancel my policy before I'm charged again for the month. I get charged on the 19th. I called on the 8th. They say it will be a $150 cancellation fee, but it was canceled that day. Done. The next day, I realize I can't find anywhere cheaper, so I call back and try to restart my policy, but I need to create a new policy instead. Set it up. Same price as before. Nothing changes. But I am asked when I would like my first payment to come out as far as 45 days out. I chose the 23rd, furthest I could have chosen, of the following month, and all was well. So basically, I paid $150 for my month of insurance instead of nearly $500. And every time I get in my car, I think, would it actually have been possible to continually cheat the system by getting a new policy every month? Too scared my rates will go through the roof or something because, I don't know, insurance companies are whack. Insurance hack or insurance heart attack? I'm not sure if this is genius or just playing with fire. Either way, don't try this at home or in your car. Story 58. If you're shopping while out of town on a trip and you need a phone number for their loyalty program, try Jenny's number with that location's area code. Area code 867-5309 almost always works. Story 59. When your girlfriend says she does not want anything but will just eat a bit of your food, order a bigger size. Story 60. Most of mine are cooking related. Use a slow cooker to have meals cook and be ready when you get home. Most people might think this is obvious, but slow cookers are woefully underused. They aren't just for roasts. You can make soups without worrying about soaking beans or watching the pot. You can cook up huge chunks of meat to portion out, and my top use is making stews to put in jars, which I then eat over the course of the week. Use an Instant Pot to do the same thing as a slow cooker, but fast. Pressure cookers are also woefully underutilized. They can also cook dry beans without soaking, make meat fall apart tender, super fast. And as an added bonus, you can cook over the stove in the pot before putting it into the machine in case you need to brown stuff or do some ahead of time prep. 2 things. Get a rice cooker and wash your rice 3-4 times or till the water is clear. There's a dude on TikTok who's famous for screaming about this, but he's right. The texture, the perfect cooking, and the aroma of good rice out of a dedicated rice cooker is a far cry from stovetop or instant rice, and still pretty fast and easy to clean up with most models. If you can, get a chest or upright freezer and check Craigslist and local farms for freezer beef. You can sometimes find freezer pork, mutton, lamb, chicken, and other meats too. Basically, freezer meat means you're buying a percentage of an animal that, when it is butchered, is split into equal portions of meat for a number of buyers. For example, if you'd invest in quarter of beef, you can get around 100 lobs of different beef cuts once the animal is butchered, portioned, and frozen by the farm's butcher processor. You need the giant freezer because that obviously won't fit it in a normal fridge freezer. Some can be a fair bit cheaper than buying from the grocery store, and you can learn about the farm and know how your cow was treated, what it was fed, etc. The $700-1,000 investment in the freezer will also serve you well if you buy produce in bulk or make freezable foods in bulk. It will eventually pay for itself in savings and unwasted food because you can buy stuff on sale and extend its lifespan. This is the most useful Depression-era advice my grandparents ever gave me. This isn't just a cheat code, it's a whole strategy guide for... Story 61. When I was in online learning during my sophomore year, I used a personal computer that wasn't linked to the school's computer. I basically cheated throughout the whole darn year. Even during tests, the teachers would have Thing program where they could see everyone's screens and tabs, but they couldn't see mine. I just opened new tabs and looked up the answers from tests other people made since my teachers were pretty lazy. That's how I passed chemistry with a 103 and geometry with a 100. Best thing is my mom never knew, and she still doesn't. I'll tell her when I graduate this upcoming year. Story 62. Want people to instantly think are feminine? Cross your legs. That simple people honestly works so well, and I don't know why, but everyone's brain just works like that, I guess. Story 63. Watch the feet. The feet fudge. If the feet fornicate your way, you're in for a fucking. Eyes are in the beholder. Look at them when they're laughing and you'll see what real beauty looks like. Raise the brows and you're cool. Squint the eyes, you fucking suck. Story 64. I haven't used this Percy, but I hear if you jump off a tall building, then it causes the game to crash and there is a bug where it deletes your save data. Story 65. Parchment paper on the George Foreman grill saves lots of time you would otherwise spend cleaning. When frying eggs, cover the pan with either a pot cover or tinfoil. Make sure it's a low flame. Your omelet will cook on both sides without having to flip it. Turn socks and underwear inside out after using them. Wear it again. Saves on laundry bills, save water, and save the planet. When sending a letter, put the destination address in the top left where people otherwise put the return address. Put whatever address on the destination. Leave stamp off. Save money on stamps. Story 66. Picture this. It was 1990. I was in 6th grade, and for reading class, we had to do a reading log and get it signed. However, I once forgot to do it and used the last one and still got the grade. Basically used old one. Story 67. So there's these little machines usually attached to buildings, and I just so happen to have this plastic card that I can insert into the machine, which lets me type in the cheat code. Whenever I put in the cheat code, it spits money out at me. It's insane. Story 68. It's okay to call things you've learned that make your life better, things you've learned rather than cheat codes or life tips. Not everything needs a marketing label. Story 69. My cheat code, since MNB, Happy Pride Month, BTIDWWO, is when I take my binder off, I keep my arms out of my shirt and lift it on my shoulders, and it's a real good cheat code, so you don't have to take it off and put it back on. Story 70. Love your wife. Love yourself. Lol. Love yourself and love what you think and what you believe in. Love the world and love yourself and who you are. I love myself and who I am from experience. 220609. Story 71. Find a brand of jeans you like and only buy said jeans. It makes buying a new pair easy since you know exactly how they're going to fit. Story 72. Being blunt gets you way further than telling them slowly. They can respect you for your truthful responses and honor you for being straightforward. Story 73. Buy new Starbucks gift cards, register it on the app, and set my birthday to a near date in the future. When that day comes, I claim my free B-Day drink. So in a way, I get 2-for-1 drinks every time. Story 74. I swear doing intermittent fasting felt like a cheat code at the beginning of my weight loss. I don't think it would work for everyone, but it really made me more aware of how much I ate and made me understand my hunger cues a lot better. I know the differences between boredom hunger and fudge, starving hunger, but I also did do a high dose of LSD that resulted in a bad trip that deleted my binge eating disorder. That seemed like an accidental cheat code. Story 75. Using the fuel gauge to determine which side the gas cap is in an unfamiliar car. I'm surprised how many people don't know this. Story 76. If someone you dislike or someone that dislike you tries to annoy you with the thing that you dislike, just slur over it by saying anything for slurring over. For example, saying yeah, whatever to him several times. This gonna annoy him, her, so I guess. Story 77. I've never appeared for jury duty. Now, this is a big if. If your jurisdiction doesn't issue a bench warrant for non-appearance, you can ignore the summonses in the mail. That is, until they send you a certified letter. I've never gotten to the point where I've gotten a certified letter. I've always moved to a different county before that happened, not to dodge jury duty for personal reasons. Then the cycle repeats. Story 78. Buying some forks. Many foods require a spoon and a fork, which means you have two things to work with and clean. Or your eating experience won't be as great as it could be if you only use one of those two. A spork solves this problem. Only one thing, it's enough of a spoon and enough of a fork. It's not much, but it's something. I mostly use those now. Of course, not for every food, but for most, I have to say, at least for me. Story 79. Weird genetics. My body runs perfectly on 4 to 6 hours of sleep. I feel bad if I get more, so an extra 2 to 4 hours a day to work on hobbies and practice skills that I wouldn't normally get to. A lot of people think I just learn quickly. No, I just get several extra hours to practice every day that other people don't. Story 80. I can unpop my ears, which helps muffle sounds a bit, since my ears can be sensitive. I can just as easily pop them if I need to listen closely to something as well. Story 81. One cheat code to me was ego and emotional detachment. We are not our emotions. Emotions are based on decisions we unconsciously and consciously make, very often through the lens of our ego. Firstly, become the spectator of your emotions and decisions. Secondly, detach yourself and gain control over it. Cookbooks for Ego Detachment, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. Story 82. On the metro, when I need a free ride and an inspector comes, I do one of these. Leave the metro. Speak English with a heavy Scottish accent. Fake sleep because they can't wake people up. Story 83. Calmly acknowledge when I'm wrong and take the heat from people. Let them get it out, if their system, so to speak. Story 84. If you're negotiating with someone or they are trying to pull one over on you, play innocent and a little dumb. Make them explain it all like you're an idiot. Do whatever you can to prevent them from being defensive. Then when they get comfortable and start lying, ask them to repeat the lie. Once you establish you're operating in good faith, but they are not, they will lose all credibility and you can dictate the terms. Coworker, we took a look and we can build that feature for you. You, oh no, why is that? Coworker, well, it's not possible. You, I see, that's too bad. Just so I know for next time, which part isn't possible? Coworker, well, you can mix those two databases. It's just not how they're built. You, so it's not possible to have those two exchange data? Coworker, yeah, it's not possible. You, I see. Well, Team X has been doing that for a long time. In fact, their tools are built on that. Should we set up a meeting with them to see what they are doing? I think they could probably set your team on the right path. Coworker, yeah, okay. We'll take another look. You, great. When can you get back to me on that? Can we make this a priority? Coworker, sure, maybe tomorrow. The art of playing dumb to make someone else look dumber. It's like conversational jujitsu. Use wisely. Story 85. It's called breathing. Never knew just how much my blue levels would drop by my brain. Spamming the breathe button. It glitches out if you use the right amount of spam and you do it automatically. I recommend you don't spam too fast since that's how my friend ended up starting the blackout challenge. They tried it again a few weeks ago. The idiots. God rest their soul. Story 86. Admit it when you're wrong. People deeply respect this quality when they see it in others, and it builds your integrity. Took me way too long to figure this one out. Story 87. My favorite, just be sure that you can achieve everything you really want if someone else has achieved it before, and if you have enough time. Make clear you free your mind from conventional ideas and ways to solve problems. That's a game changer. Another cheat, the numerical passcode often is 1337 or 0. There actually had been people who fueled their cars for free by knowing one of these cheat codes. Story 88. In an office setting, be polite and friendly to janitorial crew and secretaries. These people hold more power than your manager. Story 89. Up, down, Y, left trigger, right trigger, X, right, up, allows you to no-clip through solid materials, can be a real time saver when you are about to miss the bus. Story 90. Acting in a way that deviates from the norm, aka being yourself, aka letting your freak flag fly, has a predictable effect on people. It takes their existing opinion of you and pushes it farther. If they already like you a tiny bit, they will now really like you. If they mildly dislike you, they now dislike you. This is why attractive people have more opportunities in life. So when meeting new people, don't start by being yourself. Be reserved and observant and act like the other people are acting. Only start letting your personality come out when you're sure they like you a little bit already. Or to put in simpler terms, you don't find best friends, you have to slowly build them up from acquaintances. Story 91. Depending on the brand of fuel pump at your local gas station, one of the buttons around the video screen will mute the ads. In my case, it is the second one down on the right. If you are lucky enough to be where the pumps don't have ads, I envy you. Story 92. American here. When the left turn lane is full, I'll turn right and then do a U-turn and just wait for the light to change. Works like a charm most of the time. Story 93. When I call my bank and it says there is a long wait time, I call the emergency number that's supposed to be used for an operator to make a collect call to the bank, and you get connected instantly. Story 94. Don't look at gas prices, and you'll never know how high they are. Gonna put it in the tank. Anyways, lol. Story 95. Recognize and understand someone else's motivations while you are communicating or debating with them. Recognize your own motivations and figure out if your position is flexible or fixed. Story 96. Glances around, quietly lights a fuse. It doesn't quite work as good as it used to, I admit, but the only cheat I've ever had access to, I'm white. Story 97. If you take an AP class in high school, you'll be taking your exam around somewhere in May. So it's near the end of the school year. What's also at the end of the school year? Finals. Your teacher from your AP classes if you have multiple, will understand that you have had a lot of stress. It doesn't matter if you think they won't understand that. Trust me, they do. So they will go super easy on you at the end of the year final. For example, I'm a freshman and I took AP language this year. One of the hardest classes I will ever take. The first semester, I did really good. The second semester, my mother passed away, so it all kind of went downhill. So my grades were not very good, meaning that the class got very significantly hard at the end of the year. So my teacher, seeing that we were all struggling, she put on this persona that our final was going to be the most difficult thing ever. It was a synthesis essay. I did crap on it. She gave almost everyone in the class 100. So this raised everyone's GPA like a lot because it's AP. The point is that if you take an AP class, your semester grade will be higher, and that's what colleges look at. AP classes, where the real test is surviving until May, and the reward is your teacher taking pity on you. The system works sometimes. Story 98. Always buy popcorn at least 30 minutes before the movie starts. When it hits 15 minutes before movie starts, the lines will be long. Also, some cinemas have like a premiere section over here. Their bathrooms are empty and clean with nicer soap, like 95 of the time. Story 99. If you are doing things you need focusing and luck, exams, school, job, etc., always have a much lower level guaranteed backup plan that you can actually enjoy. The useful anxiety will remain, and the one makes you go blank will be gone. Works every time. Story 100. Don't buy your college textbooks until after the first day of class. Oftentimes, you won't even need them. Story 101. Changing your vocabulary to emphasize a point and make it sound more impressive. E.g., instead of saying, I've been doing that for 8 years, say, I've been doing that for almost a decade. Story 102. This has worked on every job I've ever had. When I get an assignment, I make sure I repeat it back so we're both on the same page as to what is expected. I do it without bothering the boss. When I'm done, I go back to him and tell him it's done. Then I say, "What else can I do for you?" Or, "What else have you got for me to do?" It works because I've gotten promoted within the first year of every job, 6 since the mid-1980s, I've ever had. Story 103. Bosses love to hear someone say, "I'll take care of it." Not just "I'll do it." Saying "I'll take care of it" makes it sound like you've already done it. It's a done deal. He can count on you. Story 104. Not really a code, but I think it applies printer cords that you can connect the printer directly to your laptop. This is so helpful, especially in college, where the connections between the library computers and the printers are complete dog shit on a good day. Plus, it pays for itself. I got back so much money from the school just by using this trick. If you have scholarships and don't use all the money in your library printers, meal plan, etc., they give it back. Story 105. In the notebook where I keep my to-do lists, I make a page each month where I write down what I cooked for dinner. Very handy reference to look back on when planning a grocery list. Story 106. If a bus comes along and a lot of people are waiting, I'll wait and let them pack the bus. Most of the time, an empty bus pulls up a few minutes later. This works when several routes share the same stretch of road. Story 107. IDK, if it's a cheat code, but rather in design, but not many people know, you can use the spacebar on an iPhone keyboard to slide the cursor around to different spots in your text. Also, swiping will delete numbers on the calculator. Story 108. Write things I want to do in the future helps me pick them up, though, time and get them done. I also write rules for myself of things I learned in life. Story 109. When I am stuck in a situation or conflict, I talk about it alone, loud, most of the time while cleaning. I pretend there are people, or anyone really, that I'd appreciate the insight from, and just have convos with them until I can get a better understanding of the problem I am facing. Or is my brain just really weird? Story 110. Riding a bicycle is not only an excellent way to not dump money into the automotive racket, loans, insurance, taxes, fudge that, but also a great way to get out of doing a lot of other shit that also sucks. Story 111. Holding burgers and sandwiches properly. Since I was a kid, I always thought holding a burger, thumb and pinky on the bottom and the 3 mid fingers on top, is more comfortable and spill-proof. Story 112. Wearing glasses makes a concerning number of people treat you with more respect and take you more seriously. I think a lot of people are genuinely shallow enough to associate glasses with intelligence. Story 113. Put everyone's birthday in your Google Calendar, set to repeat annually with an email reminder 3 days before. Even if you don't end up sending a gift or even a call, dropping a message or a text on someone for their birthday can really be uplifting, especially if it's not a really close friend or relative. My dentist gets a text from me on her birthday every year. Story 114. When I paint my toenails, I don't worry about getting it on my skin. Once it's dry, I run cold water over them in the shower, and it slides off the skin to give the perfect pedicure. Story 115. If you're in uni college and they have a late assignment deduction, but you just can't focus, take the deduction, because in the long run, what is that 2 to 5 worth if not a good night of sleep and taking care of yourself? Story 116. Compound interest. Invest as early as you can, no matter how much or how little you can. You can open a brokerage and literally put just 10 a month to start in the SP 500, but you have to start and have discipline. Story 117. Literally any reward app for restaurants. I have saved like 200 on food on the road just by having like 3 apps. Story 118. Public libraries now lend ebooks and audiobooks. No need to ever buy books again. Also CDs and DVDs, so I can watch all movies and listen to anything for free, provided I am willing to wait. Story 119. Saying sir or ma'am is a chess code to get on most people's good sides. Kids find it funny. Older folk find it charming. I find people in my own young adult age bracket go 50-50 on neutral or positive, but only very rarely negative. And if negative, they'll often just tell you, and it goes back to neutral. Makes people happy. They assume you're of moral character. And because of this assumption, they'll give you more trust and leeway. Story 120. Back in 6th grade, I never did any of my homework because there wasn't any consequences. Except not participating at the free period, there was 1 time per month. Story 121. Being polite and saying thanks goes a longer way than most would believe. And that goes with anyone, no matter what you perceive their status to be. Generally, if you make things easier and more pleasant for others, they tend to reciprocate. Seems to be a basic social rule, but not all seem to get it. Story 122. Momentum is real. If you want to be successful at a big task, break her down into smaller sections and celebrate your wins. It's probably all in my head, but it seems to work. Answer: I think of it as the law of inertia, which is a bit more scientifically sound than the law of attraction. When you are not doing stuff, say couching it and posting on Reddit, you're not doing stuff energy will persist. There will be great resistance to doing stuff. Once doing stuff, however, you will do more and more and more stuff, wondering why you ever partied too hard a moment on the couch. Story 123. When applying for a higher job position, write down the questions asked by the interviewer after your session. That way, if you fail, you can prepare and practice for your next interview. Most of the same questions will be asked by the next interviewer in a different company. Answer: there are some places that have the same question set in the same order. The only time they'll ask more questions is if you were vague in your answer or are actually interested in you and your life. Failed the first interview at one place, but I applied for the same job at another place and prepared myself with the same questions, and I got the job. Story 124. When asking someone something personal about a secret, when you notice them hesitating to tell you, just tell them, "It's okay, you don't have to tell me if you don't want to." Often this results in them telling you, since they now don't feel pressured to anymore, and you come across as more empathic. Answer: I've done this a lot. X200B. To add another layer, many times the person will say okay and decline to tell you, but if you change the subject, within a minute or two, they'll reference the secret again. This is them hoping you'll prod them so they can feel more like they aren't just volunteering the information. At that point, you can half-jokingly say, "Oh, come on, just tell me," in a teasing way. Now you've given them the direct prodding they were looking for, but you also already established you aren't actually pressuring them. Story 125. Nobody stops someone who looks busy. If you don't want to talk to anybody, pretend to talk to somebody on the phone about something business-related and walk like you're in a hurry. Nobody in their right mind will stop you unless it's important or unless there's some entitled parent stereotype. This has actually managed to save me from being verbally assaulted by a crowd of vegans. Answer: someone I worked with never failed to walk purposely and to carry a file or folder when roaming the office hallways. This creates the appearance of diligence and productivity, and in business, appearance is reality. Otoich. Walking around with Bluetooth buds sticking out of your ears and talking into open space as if to no one will help you get some much-needed me time off-site and off payroll. Story 126. If you hand someone something while they were concentrating on something else, they immediately take it without asking. Same goes with if they're holding someone and try to take it away, they immediately give it to you. I use this a lot, and it always makes me laugh. Once I gave my best friend my shoe while she was taking to someone else, and she didn't even hesitate to take it. Story 127. Having a straight posture makes people think you have better confidence. When making a request, giving a reason, any reason as long as it is not patently ridiculous, raises the probability immensely. Story 128. Have a mirror attitude for people who fall in that gray area, people who, and friends, while not giving a fudge. They talk to you nicely, you talk to them nicely, etc. Will save you a lot of time. Story 129. If someone treats you badly, just realize that sometimes you're just collateral damage in someone's war with themselves. Story 130. Everybody is the hero in their own story. Nobody is the villain in their story. X200B. Meaning everyone wants to be good from their perspective, and everyone has some sort of reason for whatever they do, even if you don't agree with those reasons. Understanding them can be quite useful. Story 131. Pitch the tone down at the end of your sentence instead of pitching it up. It makes you sound unbelievably more confident and sure of yourself. This video really explains it simply. Story 132. If you have an important meeting and do not know how to tie a tie, go to a middle-upper class clothing store and just ask for help. Most employees or customers should be knowledgeable, and at least one will help. Plus, if you buy a new tie, you can directly ask if they can tie it for you. Source. I saw this in 2 different stores while I was shopping myself. Story 133. If you ask someone something and they respond, "What?" just wait a bit and they'll eventually realize they heard you and answer the question. Answer. I've found that people get mad at this, especially when I tell they are hard of hearing. Like it could be dead silent and they are the only other person in the room and I say something loud enough for them to hear 8 feet away and they go, "What?" and say they weren't listening. I get kind of mad too because it's so dumb. I have no idea why I even typed this. Story 134. Chug a glass of water right when you wake up. Some of the grogginess and feeling shoot you're experiencing in the morning is from dehydration. You went 7-9 hours without drinking anything, so naturally you're really thirsty. It'll help make mornings a little better. Story 135. Be attractive and wealthy. I haven't used these two due to poverty-stricken ugliness, but I see others doing well with them. Story 136. Whenever my GF doesn't know where she wants to eat, I start driving directly to McDonald's. She tells me real quick what she really wants to eat. Story 137. If you're really nice to people but also stand up for yourself when you should, some good things might happen for you. Story 138. I've noticed that in many occasions, people like you more when they think they are smarter than you. So sometimes it's good to dumb it down. Story 139. When calling customer service, or if you need something in general, starting the call off asking how are you goes a long way. Level 2. If you can master a Texas accent, people are generally nicer to you on the phone too. EDKY. Story 140. Use less toothpaste. I have done it for years. The only tips from YouTube that have had significant in my life. Story 141. If you ever lose your glasses at home, use your phone camera to find them. The image will be clearer over long distance since the phone is closer to your eyes. But only work with myopia. Story 142. The healthier you eat, the better you feel, and it's easier to have a better attitude no matter how much the task you are doing sucks. Story 143. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if you want better grades, study with those that actually want to do well, not those who party during most wake hours. If you want to be successful, surround yourself with people with high ambitions and no lack of grit. Story 144. When making large purchase of multiple items, ask if you can get a discount. If they say yes, cool. Discount. If they say no, fine. You'll pay what you were willing to pay in the first place. Don't be a male body part about it, though, and take no for an answer. Story 145. If you don't want to carry a bag or something, just hold it out to the person walking next to you. If they don't take it right away, most people will, then just say, "Can you hold this for a second?" It always works. I don't know why. Story 146. When a customer-client colleague mistreats you by childishly taking their frustrations out, be extra nice to the next person you talk to. This makes the difference between having a good or a bad day. Otherwise, you might see yourself become that customer-client colleague to someone else. Story 147. If you make her come first with your finger stung, you'll satisfy her regardless of your size endurance, how short you have intimacy with her, and she's going to give you way more leeway into doing things you like instead of compromising. And since she's still sensitive down there, you're going to seem like you're much betterer than you actually are. Story 148. I found out how to cheat my anxiety of approaching someone in a room with other people in it by simply finding out where they are, leaving, drinking water, walking back in, and then approaching them. X200B. I end up not needing to find out if they are who I think they are. I already know. I'm also fully prepared to say what I want to say, fully confident, and it even shows in my walk and breathing since I am much more calm and less stumbly. X200B, literally the Konami code of awkward social situations for me. Story 149. I abandoned the main quest that society drilled into me, kids family, and now my life is 10x less stressful and fulfilling. I never wanted kids and have never been much for romance. Story 150. 1. When someone laughs hard, the first person they look at in the room is the person they trust the most. 2. Standing opposite someone feels uncomfortable, but next to them facing the same direction you can get very close. 3. If the person keeps fiddling or pulling the bottom of their shirt, they are uncomfortable with their body weight. Story 151. Always get in line behind the jerk. Customer service people will bend over backwards for you if you're calm and polite, especially if the guy before you wasn't. I frequently get coupons, upgrades, etc. from frazzled employees who are happy for a break. Story 152. Buying 20 pairs of the exact same socks is the equivalent of making sure your guns all use the same type of ammo. Story 153. When you take a new job, you can play the new guy. I didn't know. Card for a maximum of 2 years. After that, I guess you better know. Story 154. Secretly move your piece up. One space occasionally, not sure why you wanted cheat codes for a board game. Story 155. As silly and simple as it sounds, being honest to people, being nice and being generous, that will get you much farther than being dishonest and brash and selfish. A rowboat in the ocean may not go as fast as a speedboat, but the waters around it are much calmer. Story 156. Simply telling people what they want to hear is key to an easy life. Whether it's someone you're trying to seduce, an interviewer, your boss, your parents, etc. Just telling them what they want to hear, whether you agree or not, makes life easier. E.g., if my girlfriend seems upset, I shower her with a bunch of compliments, but without making them seem like I'm doing it to make her feel happy. I just slip them in and act like it's not a big deal. E.g. too, if my boss asks me how work is, I tell him everything is awesome. Everything is cool when you're part of a team. Story 157. Whenever you really want someone to do something, let them know long before you actually ask that it's fine if they don't want to do it and it's completely up to them. Oftentimes people, especially when they're quite disagreeable, go against what you say, even if it's a wiser decision for them because of how you spoke to them. Source: I sell expensive services. Story 158. A friend found out how to make countless amount of money out of literally nothing. I heard from someone making millions that way, but I don't know if it's legal. Story 159. When you wanted to stay the night at a friend's house, having your friend ask your parents if you can sleep over. Story 160. Crying. I sometimes cry to weasel my way out of situations I don't want to be in because generally people don't want to deal with crying people. Sometimes it's shoot, but it works. Story 161. If you have a good guy or girlfriend that goes to the gym, you can use them to manipulate the people around you at the gym. If you get a good girl or friend to follow you around station to station and act like they lust you, it will intrigue some of the other girls into checking you out or giving you attention. Getting a guy friend to approach and egg on other guys is a good secondary manipulation tactic. Guys can shame other guys into dating people they don't want to date. Story 162. This is a depressing one, and I'm sorry for that. If you say the words foster child and possible harmful behavior, you get to go to the front of the line at the Children's Hospital ER. Explanation: a few months ago, I got a call for a family of 3 kids around 1:30 a.m. Wife and I picked them up, and the on-site nurse said that there were some things that she wasn't sure about and asked us to take them to see a doctor sometime soon. We wanted to be quick about it, so the next afternoon we took them to the ER. The waiting room was full of kids sitting around, but we didn't even get a chance to sit down before we were called to the back. The good thing is that all the kids were fine, and apparently it was not harmful behavior, but just normal bruising from kids being kids. Story 163. This is very specific and it won't last, but on Tuesdays, my wife works at night, so she's not home when our son gets out of school, so we send him to an after-school program on Tuesdays. The thing is that it closes down at 6 p.m., so I have to get there and get him by that time. But if I leave for work really early in the morning, and thanks to generous flex time policies, I can make it home well before 6 p.m. I can sit in my house and do whatever I want for at least 2 or 3 hours. I usually play video games in peace. Story 164. Buy the cheapest car possible. Put junkyard tires on it. If a 2.0 car needs a transmission, that's awful. If you pay $500 for a car and it needs a transmission after driving it a year, no problem. Junk it. Story 165. You know when kids start opening and closing the fridge door to see if the light goes off? Well, there is a little switch behind the door and a little sticky out bit on the door that pushes the switch to turn off the light when you close the door. So all you have to do to turn off the light is push the little switch and it goes off without you even having to shut the fridge door. Story 166. Never pay more than tank for a car. Always have the make and model in mind, and always secure financing before looking to buy. Look for a house that's a bit outdated and has good bones instead of one ready to move in. The improvements you make will create equity. Also, DIY is fun. Bail on mainstream telecoms for third-party providers like Straight Talk, Cricket, etc. Saves me literally $100 a month, and Straight Talk now gives 25 GB for $45 a month. Don't own cable or satellite. Also saves me $100 a month. Invest and don't ever own a credit card if you can avoid it. There are a lot of ways to go to college for free, and frankly, I wouldn't do it otherwise unless you can pay for it outright while going. Most colleges where I'm from offer free tuition to employees, and there are thousands of jobs at colleges. This is the financial equivalent of eat your vegetables. Not always fun, but your future self will thank you. Story 167. The key to mental health is physical health. If your body is in a bad way, there isn't much chance for your mood. Story 168. Free meal at McDonald's, drive-in. Step 1. Go to McDonald's to the drive-in. Only works when you have a car. Make sure to be between 2 cars. Step 2. Go to the first window and tell them that you forgot your wallet or that you don't enough money with you. Step 3. Wait a moment. This takes a long time as you have to wait till the guy behind you ordered and the guy in front left. Good timing is important. Now move to the twand window. Now you get the food of the person behind you. The first time I tried this, it worked back in 2008 after watching a video of a French YouTuber who invented this. But after a couple of months, they patched the trick, and it doesn't always work now. Story 169. When directing a group of people, don't give out general tasks like, okay, so we need the floor mopped, someone do it. Instead, say, hey, Bob, why don't you go mop the floor? It's directed for him, so he will go and do it instead of waiting for someone else to. Also, the power of phrasing things as suggestions is amazing. Instead of go paint the wall, it's why don't you go and paint the wall? It makes people feel like it was their idea and they will be more willing to do the task. Story 170. There's one to get you a couple $1,000s. You just have to bring a gun to a bank. Doesn't last long. Story 171. If you are dealing with someone who seems to be in a bad mood, a service worker of any sort, compliment them on something, like they have a nice top on or you like their haircut, something simple. Most of the time, it changes their attitude toward you, and it makes both of your experiences much more pleasant. Story 172. One thing that really helped me get a job was to research interview questions before the interview. If you go on the website Glassdoor and search up the company and position you want, you'll very likely find a ton of interview questions. With these questions, you can practice and have awesome answers for if it comes up in the actual interview. I wanted to be a flight attendant, so I looked up all the questions up online before any of my interviews, and when I actually took the interview, about 75-80 of the questions I found online were actually used in the interview. It takes a lot of stress off knowing how to answer majority of the questions and made me feel more confident in my answers. Story 173. Asking people, can I have that, when they have two of something results in you getting one free about 75 of the time. I would get this a lot at concerts and sports events where people have 2 drinks because of drink specials, and I'd get a free beer out of it. Story 174. If your head is spinning from too much drink, apply pressure with your thumb and pointer finger to the other thumb muscle kind of below the pointer finger knuckle, right in the base of the L or backwards L, just enough pressure to make it slightly hurt. Great pressure point here that relieves headaches, the spins, and I've even used it while seasick. Story 175. I'll pay almost every time I ask friends to go out and they say no. This sentence works will change their minds. Don't use it often though. Story 176. Discipline. You know what you're supposed to be doing. If you stop the excuses and actually do it, your life will get a lot better. Story 177. Being genuinely friendly and nice to the people who make your food is usually a good idea. It won't work if you're fake, though. We can tell. Story 178. I don't know if the designers intended this or not, but wow, money is OP. Almost any problem that's otherwise hard to solve can be solved with it. Story 179. Turn society's unsolicited advice on mute. People are going to criticize you no matter what. You might as well do it your way. Story 180. Whenever I make a dope jerk logo for a school project, but it says I have to pay to use it, I just screenshot the logo and paste it on my assignment. Story 181. If you're nice to people, they're often nice back. In addition, if you look for easy opportunities to help coworkers' friends, they'll often help you when you really need it. It's common sense, but for some reason, these are relatively rare traits. Story 182. If you spam the pound key on one of those automated calls hoping to speak to a representative, you will be put through to one, much faster than trying to navigate their directory, especially when your issue doesn't immediately fall into a specific category. Story 183. If you open the console and type help cheats, you can find the whole list of actually implemented real-life cheats like hyper-regeneration, meta-knowledge, stat-modify, etc. Edit, where do I know that from? Did you not read the second sheet? It's also a naturally occurring rebirth-based ability of causes. Story 184. Don't be scared to add some humor in an interview. This will make the interviewer think that you will work well with others. I did this once at a Planet Fitness maintenance position. I didn't know a darn thing on how to fix these machines, but because of my very dry sense of humor and the fact he thought I was joking when I said that I really didn't have any experience in maintenance, I was hired an hour after my interview. Worst job I ever had, but I noticed that it worked for jobs I actually enjoy. Story 185. This isn't one I needed for myself, but I offer this nugget for Reddit. Conditions for this to work. 1, you must love wine. 2, you must live near or in a major wine region in the western United States. 1, visit a large winery tasting room and pay for a regular tasting. At the end, they'll ask if you want to buy any wine. Don't, but do say you may be interested in joining their wine club. Normally, tasting room staff make a commission if they sign someone up, so ask for an application and their card. 2, Scan it, put your name in instead, get them made. 3. Go to all your favorite local winery tasting rooms. Right up front at every tasting present your card, and they'll say, your tasting is comped, and you'll get a trade discount, sometimes called industry discount, which is usually in the 20-30 off-bottle purchases. 4. Drink all the wine you want for free at the tasting room or well discounted at home. Note, if you are going to pass yourself off as tasting room hospitality staff, know a few things about wine and the winery you are representing yourself from. Basically, don't arouse their suspicions. Cheat code or con artist starter pack. I'm not judging, but maybe don't use this at a winery owned by your future in-laws. Story 186. If you go around a high school parking lot, preferably a richer school, where students drive BMWs or Mercedeses, you might find some loose change. Don't know if this counts as a cheat code for life. I did this once and found over 10 in one go. Another time I stepped not even 5 foot away from my car, and I found 5. Students tend to care less about loose change than they do bills. Story 187. It is really weird you have to view life through the lens of a video game. It says a lot about you. Story 188. If you hang with someone or maybe even start dating, etc., it's not about how you feel. It's about how you make them feel. Make them want you and not the other way around. Humans will always try to get to stuff they kept have and don't like stuff they already have. Story 189. If you have a Chromebook, then holding Ctrl-Shift-U, then entering any combination of numbers and letters, A through F only, and pressing Return Enter gets you something in Unicode. Story 190. Make a ton of alternate emails so that you can use the first-time bonuses that various companies offer multiple times. And use these fake emails for referrals for your main account so that you can collect the referral incentives and continue to either eat and buy things for very cheap or even free at times. Story 191. People like you more when they do you a favor. If you want people to like you, give them the opportunity to be nice to you. X200B. Also, people who express gratitude regularly tend to be happier. Story 192. If you marry an active duty military member, you can be married without having to live with your spouse. Story 193. Mathematics lets you understand all sciences better, and by extension, the world around you. If you're a good observer and can find a way to turn real-life problems, even partially, into math ones, it will continue to help you throughout your life a lot. The other is lucid dreaming. Realizing mid-dream that you're not awake, and with this knowledge becoming able to control your dream, is an indissociable phenomenon. It's a free way of being in virtual reality, and what you can do and experience is pretty much only bound by your imagination and by your skills of dream control, but those can be greatly improved. Story 194. Play the game of life when the TV is on and no OD pays attention. You can grab a few 100 bills from the pile. We're talking about the board game, right? Story 195. When you have one task to do, break it into smaller tasks and break those into even smaller tasks until you have infinite tasks to do, therefore you can give up. Story 196. If you're on a computer and is trying to search up a song but you can't remember the name, just press Alt F4 on Google and it will pop up every song name and a video. Story 197. Be the first to greet someone and say, "Hi, how are you?" It shows you as open and friendly and make them easier to socialize with. Story 198. Running the shower for a minute or two makes showering easier in the winter. I used to suffer when I wouldn't. Then I was like, wait, I could just made it a little sauna in here and then turn down the heat of the water and my body will thank me. Story 199. If you're in a place where you shouldn't be for whatever reason, power walk. If you walk with confidence, people will assume that you're doing something important and that you belong there. Story 200. Learn all skill you can. This will help you later in life and grab every opportunity. I may sound greedy, but I'll help you. Story 201. If you have an incompetent teacher, you can just scribble and they won't question it because they won't care. Story 202. Communicating with yourself before having any serious reaction with other people is super important. I used to be so impulsive and look back on old conversations and cringe. Now I find out my intentions and communicate them effectively. Story 203. Cut out sugar and see how much better you feel and more alert you are. I used to think sugar was fine, just a concentrated source of calories. Then I learned about the effect it has on the reward centers of the brain and the way it affects your mood. It's fudge terrible. There are definitely behind-the-scenes sugar industry shenanigans happening in the U.S. Why on earth does nearly every pasta sauce in the U.S. have added sugars or high fructose corn syrup as a main ingredient? Walmart pasta sauce has added sugar in the U.S., but it does not contain any in Canadian stores. I just moved here. That seems pretty sketchy to me. Story 204. If you're arguing with a woman, compliment her outfit or hair or whatever, knocks the wind out of their sails, leading to a speedy getaway. Story 205. You get free money from the government if you are born in hell and somehow escape but are diseased forever. Being born in hell and being diseased farting brimstone makes you have no friends. Story 206. If you want to get a seat on the subway during rush hour, scope out the people sitting there and try to guess what stop they'll get off at based on the demographic of that neighborhood. In New York City, 9 times out of 10, the fobby-looking Asians get off at Canal Street. This way, I was always guaranteed a free seat. Story 207. If you are at a grocery store and you don't want to pay for the plastic bag, you just have to pay for your things and then ask if you can just take a bag. No one wants to do another transaction in order to sell you a bag, and you usually get it for free. I think it works better when there are a lot of people behind you, but I don't know since it had never failed for me. Story 208. When asking someone their name, watch how their mouth moves. It will usually give you the first letter at least to remember it later. Story 209. Who is the better player? Like Ninja. Comment TFUA. Whoever you put under the like category will always do better, as it is easier to leave a like than a comment. Story 210. For high schoolers and maybe university students, only tried it in high school. When you're at the cafeteria and want to get your food quickly, just walk to the front of the line instead of lining up. Don't acknowledge the person either. Most people don't want any kind of confrontation. If a person is bigger than you, they won't get into a physical confrontation over a line spot. If they're smaller, well, they won't do anything either. It's obviously messed up, but it's never failed me. Your mileage may vary based on socioeconomic factors. Answer, I nearly got into a fist fight with a guy in Malpensa Airport in Italy because of this. Guy, Italian, walks up and gets in front of me. I, American, tap him on the shoulder and say, "What you doing, bud?" He turns around and starts giving me shoot in Italian. I'm 6 foot tall, 180 in good shape. I said, "No, man, I don't speak Italian, but get your jerk back of the line." He bows up a little and looks over at his wife, who has a "please don't start this crap" look on her face. He looks me up and down, says "fudge Americans," and goes to the back of the line. If you cut in front of me, we will have words, and you'll go to the back of the line because you don't have the nuts to take a swing at me, and you know you're wrong. There are plenty of people like me out there, so be careful doing this. You could get yourself punched by someone with less self-control than I have. Cutting in line, high risk, high reward. Just remember, for every passive person, there's someone who's been waiting too long and has nothing to lose. Choose your cue wisely. That's the end of the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Also, if you're interested, I have a second channel. This is Vancher signing off. See you soon.